You wonder about the extremism of the left? Here's an example of the extremism of the left. So on Sunday, the Chronicle of Higher Education reported on a supremely important development. A male professor made a joke about lingerie in an elevator. And who else was in the elevator? A gender studies professor. So you can predict how this thing was going to go.
A gender studies professor? Gender studies professor. Okay. Okay, I'm going to gender studies when I grow up. I'm going into gender studies when I grow up. It's okay. It's nowhere near as silly as I'm going to be a reactor on YouTube when I grow up.
And who else was in the elevator? A gender studies professor. So you can predict how this thing was going to go.
About to go down.
According to Catherine Mangan, who's the reporter at Chronicle of Higher Education, political theory professor Richard Ned Liebow of King's College was in an elevator with a bunch of other humans, including Professor Simona Sharoni, who teaches women's and gender studies at Merrimack College. So she is a professional useless person. And Sharoni, who clearly...
Is it a professional useless person? I told y'all, man, Ben Shapiro is petty, and he wants all the smoke from anyone who want to give it to him. He don't care because he studies. He's smart as a whip. IQ is through the roof.
Studies at Merrimack College. So she is a professional useless person. And Sharoni, who clearly had been conditioned to submit to the patriarchy, she offered to hit buttons on the elevator. And that's when Liebow did the unthinkable. He jokingly asked for the women's lingerie department, which has been like a joke since the 1950s. You get on an elevator with a bunch of people, and then somebody says, which button would you like to hit? And they say lingerie department, just as like a stupid joke.
I thought that was hilarious. Now, why would you have such a stick in your butt where you would get offended by something like that?
So his buddies, those jerks, those patriarchal jerks, they laughed. How dare they? So what did this lady do? Okay, this women's studies professor complained to the International Studies Association, just as an empowered woman would. She went and she whined to the male bosses of the ISA. She tremblingly wrote, quote, "I am still trying to come to terms with the fact that we froze and didn't confront him for making a joke about the women's lingerie department in an elevator." Okay, they launched a full investigation of Liebow. Why? Because here's what Liebow did. She wrote to him, and he wrote back, quote, "I certainly had no desire to insult women or make you feel uncomfortable." And then he suggested that Sharoni, who was born in Romania and raised in Israel, might have misinterpreted his remark. When he was young in the 1950s, he said, it was a standard gag line to ask the elevator operator for the hardware or lingerie floor as though one were in a department store. And then he wrote, like you, I am strongly opposed to the exploitation, coercion, or humiliation of women.
She act like he asked to go to the daggone, what floor would you like to go to? I want to go to the department. He didn't do that. He didn't say he want to go to the big department. He said the lingerie department. Ladies, maybe I have to be a lady to understand. I don't know. So if I'm being insensitive, I apologize. I really do, man. Would you have gotten offended by that? I want to know from the ladies. Ladies, would you have been offended by someone saying that if you would have asked them, what floor? They would have said the lingerie department. How would you have felt? I mean, seriously, how would you have felt? That's what I want to hear from the ladies.
As such evils continue, it seems to me to make sense to direct our attention to real offenses, not those that are imagined or marginal. By making a complaint to ISA that I consider frivolous, and I expect will be judged this way by the Ethics Committee, you may be directing time and effort away from the real offenses that trouble us both. But this was the big problem, right? Why was this a problem? Because he was doubling down. And not only that, he was mansplaining. He mansplained to the gender studies professor. You must never mansplain to a gender studies professor that she's being an idiot. Right? Too bad that she couldn't woman understand, but he had to mansplain it to her, and that was the big problem.
Oh my God, man. Where's the daggone microphone? I used to have one. I cannot find it, man. Just mic drop. Too bad she couldn't woman understand. He was mansplaining. Too bad she couldn't woman understand. Bars, bruh. Sheesh, you need to send that line to Eminem. He can use that. Mansplaining, she couldn't woman understand. He would have said it much fast, though, because you know he the fastest rapper in the world.
Right? Too bad that she couldn't woman understand, but he had to mansplain it to her, and that was the big problem. Andrew Klavan's line there about woman understanding. According to the association, this was the cruelest cut of all. That Liebow didn't just bow grovelingly before her and say, I wish I had never made that lingerie joke. I know. It was just the same as forced abortions in China. But, I really apologize now. So she says it didn't feel frivolous. Instead, the association said that Liebau, this professor, had to write an unequivocal apology. Liebau said no, because he's not a ridiculous, stupid. Instead, he wrote an email calling the entire situation, quote, a horrifying and chilling example of political correctness that encourages others to censor their remarks for fear of retribution. But Sharoni, this female professor, was steadfast. She wrote, quote, for decades, women and other marginalized groups in the academy had to put up with white men who decided what counts as a violation and what is frivolous. As someone who has dedicated her life to confronting sexism and other forms of discrimination and oppression in academic spaces, I cannot and will not remain silent when misogyny is at play.
Hey man, everybody want to be an activist when it's, everybody feel like they're called to the podium to do it. Like, oh, it's my soapbox moment. It's my soapbox moment, and I'm going to be the biggest activist there ever was for women at this moment. He shouldn't have said what he said. He shouldn't have said what he said. He's a white man, first of all right? Did I let y'all know that he's a white man? He's male and he's white. Huh? I shouldn't even have to say anymore. I shouldn't have to say anymore. He already wants to hold me down. I'm a woman. They don't like me. I've been repping women for decades. Ever since I popped out of the coochie of my mama. You know what, man? People have hills that they're willing to die on. And now we're here. I just think it's silly.
Academic spaces. I cannot and will not remain silent when misogyny is at play. And you can hear the swelling music from behind, and you get the upshot with the lights behind her, and you see her in profile. She looks out staring into the sun because of the magical thing she's just done in resisting a joke about a women's lingerie department. Just amazing, amazing courage. And then people wonder why people think that gender studies professors are humorless scolds you would never want to spend any time in an elevator with. Probably because they're humorless scolds that you wouldn't want to spend any time in an elevator with. My goodness. But this is the extent to which the left has gone extreme.
I thought that was ridiculous coming from that. I thought it was dumb. It was dumb, but I can't tell anybody when to be offended, when not to be offended. But I can give my opinion based off of what I've heard about all the details involving that situation. And from that, I believe she was being ridiculous. And every single time you do that, it's like it waters down your whole movement. If you want to say what you have is an actual movement, it waters it completely down. But I want to hear what the rest of my people have to say in the comments below. And if you have yet to hit that subscribe button or the super thanks button, please make sure you do so on your way out the door. Don't forget my playlist, guys. All right. I'm Van. Now we are all the LFR family. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Hopefully inside the Patreon as well. Y'all have been amazing per usual. Love y'all.